Not understood, we move along asunder. Our paths grow wider as the seasons creep. Along the years we marvel and we wander, while life is life, and then we fall asleep. Not understood. Not understood, we gather false impressions and hug them closer as the years go by, till virtue ofttimes seems to us transgressions. Thus men rise and fall and live and die. Not understood. Not understood, poor souls with stunted visions often measure giants by their narrow gauge. The poison shaft of falsehood and derision are oft impaled against those who mold the age. Not understood. Not understood the secret springs of action which lie beneath the surface and the show are disregarded, and with self-satisfaction we judge our neighbors, and they often go not understood. Not understood how trifles often changes. The thoughtless sentence or the fancied slight destroy long years of friendship and estranges, and leaves upon our souls a freezing blight. Not understood. Not understood how many hearts are aching for lack of sympathy, odd day by day. How many cheerless, lonely hearts are breaking. How many noble spirits pass away, not understood. Oh God, that men would see a little clearer, or judge less harshly when they cannot see. Oh God, that men would draw a little nearer to one another, and they be near thee and understood. By Thomas Bracken. To the waterfall. Whether midst falling dew, where glows the heavens with the last steps of day, for through their rosy depths dost thou pursue thy solitary way. Vainly the fowler's eye might mark thy distant flight to do thee wrong, as darkly seen against the crimson sky thy figure floats along. Seekest thou the splashy brink of weedy lake, or marge of river wide, or where the rocking billows rise and sink on the chafed ocean side? There is a power whose care teaches thy way along that pathless coast, the desert, the illimitable air, lone wandering but not lost. All day thy wings have fanned at that far height the cold, thin atmosphere, yet stoop not weary to the welcome land, though the dark night is near. And soon that toil shall end. Thou shalt find a summer home and rest and scream among thy fellows. Reeds shall soon bend over thy sheltered nest. Thou art gone. The abyss of heaven has swallowed up thy form, yet on my heart deeply has sunk the lesson thou hast given, and shall not soon depart. He who from zone to zone guides through the boundless sky thy certain flight, will in the long way that I must tread alone, will lead my steps aright. By William Cullen Bryant. Soliloquy from Hamlet. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep no more, and by a sleep to say we end the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to, 'tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die, to sleep, perchance to dream, hey, there's the rub. For in that dream of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause, Theirs the respect that makes calamity of so long of life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that the patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin? Who would portals bear to grunt and sweat under a weary life, but the dread of something after death? The undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveller returns puzzles the will, and makes us bear those ills we have, then fly to others we know not of. And thus the native hue of resolution is sickled o'er with a pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great pith and moment with this regard their currents turn array and lose the name of action. Woman's Love by Robert G. Ingersoll. It takes 100 men to make an encampment, but one woman can make a home. I not only admire woman as the most beautiful object ever created, but I reverence her as the redeeming glory of humanity, the sanctuary of all the virtues, the pledge of all perfect qualities of heart and head. It is not just a right to lay the sins of men at the feet of women. It is because women are so much better than men that their faults are considered greater. The one thing in this world that is constant, the one peak that rises above all clouds, the one window in which the light forever burns, the one star that darkness cannot quench, is woman's love. It rises to the greatest heights, it sinks to the lowest depths. It forgives the most cruel injuries. It is the perennial of life and grows in all climates. Neither coldness nor neglect, harshness nor cruelty can extinguish it. A woman's love is the perfume of the heart. This is the real love that subdues the earth, the love that has wrought all the miracles of art, that gives us music all the way from the cradle song to the grand closing symphony that bears away the soul on wings of fire. A love that is greater than power, sweeter than life, and stronger than death. Give Us Men by J.G. Holland. God give us men, a time like this demands, strong minds, great hearts, true faith and ready hands, men whom the lust of office cannot kill, men whom the spoils of office cannot buy, men who possesses opinions and a will, men who have honor, men who will not lie, men who can stand before a demagogue and brave his treacherous flatteries without winking, tall men, sun-tanned, who live above the fog in private duty and in private thinking. For while the rabble with its thumb-worn creeds, its large professions, and its little deeds mingle in strife, lo, freedom weeps, wrong rules the land, and waiting justice sleeps. The Gettysburg Address, speech at the dedication of the National Cemetery at Gettysburg, November the 19th, 1863. 87 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger sense we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, We cannot hollow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us the living, rather, to be here dedicated to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. A letter to Mrs. Bixby, Boston, Massachusetts. Dear Madam, I have been shown in the files of the War Department a statement of the Adjutant General of Massachusetts that you are the mother of 5 sons who have died gloriously upon the field of battle. I feel how weak and fruitless must be any word of mine which would attempt to beguile you from the loss of a grief so overwhelming. But I cannot refrain from tendering you the consolation that may be found in the thanks of the Republic that they died to save. I pray that our Heavenly Father may assuage the anguish of your bereavement and leave you only the cherished memories of the loved and lost and the solemn pride that must be yours to have lain so costly a sacrifice upon the altar of freedom. Yours very sincerely and respectfully, Abraham Lincoln. Psalms, the 23rd chapter. David's confidence in God's grace. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Abu bin Adam, may his tribe increase, awoke one night from a deep dream of peace, and saw within the moonlight in his room, making it rich and like a lily in bloom, an angel writing in a book of gold. Exceeding peace had made Ben Adam bold, and to the presence in the room he said, What writest thou? The vision raised its head, and with a look made of all sweet accord, answered, The names of those who love the Lord. And it mine one, said Abu. Nay, not so, replied the angel. Abu spoke more low, but cheerly still, and said, I pray thee then, write me as one who loves his fellow man. The angel wrote and vanished. The next night it came again with a great awakening light, and showed the names whom love of God had blessed. And lo, Ben Adam's name led all the rest. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about and don't deal in lies, or being hated and don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one pitch of turn and toss, and lose and start again at your beginning and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your nerve and heart and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there's nothing in you except the will which said to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you be a man, my son. Right? To Rachel, Elwyn, Mark, and Paula, I hope that you will get as much enjoyment out of these poems and speeches as I have in making them. I know this, that nobody can say you like your voice, so you can listen to me, and this is the voice of your grandfather. Well, Rachel, as we often say, time and tide waits for no man. And here it is, 1964, and March the 31st, I will be 75 years. Where has this time gone? When the one great scorer comes to write against thy name, he writes not that you won nor lost, only how did you play the game. Did you want to sing it? Not in vain. If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life, the aching, or cool one's pain, or help one's fainting robin unto his nest again, I shall not have lived in vain.
This is Tom, the oldest son of A.J. Nelson, and I just had the opportunity to copy a tape that he had of these poems, and needless to say, it pleased me very, very much. And I'm making some extra copies so that Diane, my daughter, and my daughter Barbara Jean can have one. I think it's marvelous that my father could recite poetry like he did, and he took such love and delight in doing so. He was a marvel. I have often heard people say here in our ward that he was the greatest of all the teachers who taught the gospel doctrine class. My father was a self-learned man, but poetry, how he did love poetry, and he is to be highly commended. And I think all this recorded very beautifully, considering the tape that this was first made on, and then copying it with some of our later equipment today. But I think we come up with some good results. And all I can say, it sounds to me if Dad was right here speaking. And it really touched me to hear these tapes, and I hope you, my children and your grandchildren, will enjoy them and remember your grandfather, because he was truly a great man.